Agile is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot in business, especially in project, product, and technology conversations. But if you ask 10 different people what it actually means, you'll often get 10 different answers. So in this video, I'm going to explain what Agile development really is, how it works in practice, where it's being used, and why it matters even if you don't work in software or IT. So let's start with the basics. Agile is not a tool and it's not a single methodology. Agile is a way of working. It's about delivering value in smaller, faster increments instead of trying to deliver everything in one big lump at the end of a long project. Now, to understand why Agile came about, it helps to look at how projects used to be managed. Now, in traditional, what we call waterfall project management, you would spend months planning, writing long requirement documents, locking everything down, and only then would you start building. Now, by the time the work was finally finished, sometimes a year later, the business environment had already moved on. The result was that teams delivered what was asked for a year ago, not what was actually needed today. Agile takes a different approach. Instead of trying to deliver everything at once, Agile breaks work into small, time-boxed chunks, usually called sprints. A sprint is a fixed period of time, often 2 weeks, where a team commits to delivering a small, clearly defined set of work. At the end of each sprint, the team produces something useful and usable. That could be a new feature in an app, an improved process, or even just a working prototype. Now, the work that feeds into a sprint usually comes from something called a product backlog. The backlog is simply a prioritized list of all the features, tasks, or ideas that might be built in the future. You can think of it like a shopping list for the product, where the most important items are always at the top. And here's the important part. Because the team is delivering in small steps, 2 things happen. The first is that the team gets feedback much faster, which means they can improve the solution before too much time has passed. The second is that if the business needs change, the team can adapt quickly. They are not locked into a fixed 12-month plan. Now, in practice, Agile teams usually start each day with a short meeting, often called a daily stand-up or daily scrum. Everyone in the team answers 3 questions. What did I do yesterday? What am I doing today? And is anything blocking my progress? This simple routine keeps everyone aligned and helps issues surface quickly. Now, there is usually a role called the product owner who represents the business and makes sure the team is always focused on the highest value items in the backlog. The product owner does not manage the team directly, but instead acts as the voice of the customer, constantly refining and prioritizing what should be done next. Supporting the team is often a Scrum Master, whose role is to coach the team in Agile practices and remove obstacles that slow the team down. To think of a Scrum Master as a facilitator and protector of the Agile way of working, rather than a traditional project manager. Now, at the end of each sprint, the team runs a sprint review where they demo what's been built and gather feedback from stakeholders. This is about transparency and making sure that what's been created really meets the needs of the business. They then run a retrospective, which is a short reflection session where the team asks what went well, what didn't, and what they want to try differently next time. Retrospectives are a key part of Agile because they create a rhythm of continuous improvement rather than waiting until the end of a project to reflect. Now, this style of working is most often associated with a framework called Scrum. Scrum is the most widely used Agile framework, and it follows the exact pattern I've just described. Short sprints, daily stand-ups, product backlogs, sprint reviews, and retrospectives. Another popular Agile framework is Kanban. Kanban doesn't use sprints. Instead, it visualizes the flow of work on a board, often with columns such as to do, in progress, and done. Work moves across the board as it gets completed, which makes bottlenecks visible and helps the team focus on finishing what they've started before taking on new tasks. And at a larger scale, some organizations use a framework called SAFe, which stands for Scaled Agile Framework. SAFe is designed to apply Agile principles across multiple teams and departments so that big organizations with thousands of people can still benefit from agility while keeping everyone aligned to the same goals. Now, in software and technology, Agile is now the default. Instead of spending 6 months building an entire system, teams release smaller features every few weeks so that users can start seeing value almost immediately. But Agile isn't just for tech. Many marketing teams use Agile to run campaigns by testing small pieces like headlines or images and then iterating based on how customers respond. Product companies like Spotify and Tesla use Agile principles to constantly test and improve features, treating product development as an ongoing cycle rather than a one-off launch. In financial services, some banks use Agile to build digital services. For example, they might launch a basic version of a mobile app and then add features every 2 to 3 weeks based on what customers actually use and ask for. Now, the reason this matters beyond IT is that the world is moving faster than ever. Markets shift, customer expectations evolve, and new technologies appear. If you try to plan everything perfectly up front, you risk delivering something that's already outdated. Agile reduces that risk by helping teams stay flexible, stay closer to feedback, and stay focused on value. Those principles matter just as much in HR, finance, or operations as they do in software. The good news is that you don't have to be a developer to work in an agile way. You can start by breaking your work into smaller deliverables. A deliverable is simply something tangible that creates value for others. Instead of waiting months to present the final version of something, ask yourself what you can deliver in the next 2 weeks that would already be useful. You can also create regular feedback loops by asking for input as you go rather than waiting until the very end. And you can build reflection into your habits by taking a moment at the end of each project or even just at the end of each week to ask what worked, what didn't, and what you want to try differently next time. There are also a few other terms worth knowing. A user story is the format most Agile teams use to describe a requirement. It's written from the perspective of the user. For example, as a customer, I want to reset my password so that I can gain access if I forget it. This format helps keep the focus on the user rather than just the technical detail. Teams often measure their progress using something called velocity, which is simply how much work the team can complete in each sprint measured over time. And finally, many teams aim to release what is called a minimum viable product, or MVP for short, which is the simplest version of a product that still delivers value. A good example is the very first version of Uber, which was nothing more than an app to book a black car in San Francisco. It wasn't the full platform we know today, but it was enough to test the idea and learn what customers really wanted. So, if someone asks you what Agile development is, a simple answer is that it's a way of working where we deliver small pieces of value quickly, get feedback, and improve instead of trying to deliver everything at once. And if they ask why it matters, you can say that it helps organizations stay flexible, respond to change, and reduce the risk of building something nobody actually wants. So let me leave you with a question. What's one piece of work you're doing right now where you could apply an agile mindset by breaking it down, seeking feedback sooner, or reflecting more regularly? That one shift alone can make a huge difference over time. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more videos just like this one. If you're keen to learn more about transformation, be sure to check out the industryportal.com link in the description below. Thanks so much for stopping by, and as always, keep growing, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next video.